I want to thank everybody for coming, and I want to thank everybody for helping. I'm Joe Nebb, the Laredo City Manager. I think I know some of you, not everybody, but we'll get to know each other really well over the next 4 or 5 months. So what we're here for is, of course, that the City Council has decided that they want to take an opportunity to go after a bond referendum in May of 2025. The challenge we have, and all of you are very aware of this, the city is growing exponentially faster than our resources are. We've been living within our budget. We generally, for our capital improvement plans, we borrow money every year, about $40 million in the general fund, and that rolls over year after year after year. And so there's really no impact to that, no new impact to our citizens. And but the challenges are, and this is something that we're talking with the state legislature in Texas, is that we now in 2019 we have a growth cap placed on the city of 3.5%. So even though our city is growing faster than 3.5%, we don't get any additional revenue in order to offset this work. Every one of you probably know and feel the challenges that Laredo has, whether it be in transportation, public safety, all these different needs. We're struggling to catch up. So it always feels like we're behind the 8 ball. So our hope is that we can put together a bond referendum that can go forward in May of 2025 to the voters. And so we're going to walk through this. Tonight is all about orientation. Mr. Maldonado, our city secretary, will swear everybody in that is here to take one of the positions. We have a few people that are going to be missing, and we'll bring them in and we'll get them all set up. And then I'll walk through the slides so that you all understand exactly where we're at and where we're going. That's probably the quickest way through this. And then I have a few other people to share their different pieces. So really, we're right here at the welcome and thank you. And we will get these slides out to everybody. You'll get copies of all of them as well too. We just wanted to cover this for now, but I'm going to cover the welcome, the presentation of the purpose, scope, and objectives, discuss the 4 project areas, because we're going to take the committee as a whole. There's 28 individuals on the committee as a whole, and we're going to break it into 4 subcategories. And I will say that I met with a retired superintendent of the schools, I think with United, and you know, the schools, this is what they have to live by for their capital, is this process. And so we can learn from our cousins, our brothers, our sisters, or whatever. And so the idea is that we are going to kind of model after that thing. And so you'll see a lot of different information up here as to why we're doing it with subcategory groups and everything else. And then we'll talk about the timeline of objectives, because we're walking all the way up to, I would say we're already behind the 8 ball for our time to make it to May and make it feel organic and actually cover all the details within this. So you guys will be challenged. It'll be tough. It'll be fast. It'll be furious. We're going to help. We're going to stay with you. We're going to walk you all the way through that. City Secretary Mario Maldonado will administer the oath. We'll take a little bit of time out to do that. Our Finance Director, Mr. Mata, he's going to cover the establishment of the subgroups, and provide the explanation. He's going to introduce our financial consultant. He's going to introduce our bond counsel, and they're going to all share a little bit of their knowledge as to what this process is going to look like. City Attorney, we have Mr. Joaquim Rodriguez stepping in for zone. He'll cover just the overview of the open meetings and the voting process, and then Ms. Negron for our PIO will establish the expectations and timeline for our outreach. And as most of you know, if you have been around for a while, once the vote of the council is done, if they vote to go after a bond referendum, our jobs have to stop because of the political side of this thing. We are not able to support or not like any issue at that time when it's out to the voters. So we will, I expect what will happen is we will see some type of a citizens pack created that will help support for the last couple of months in the process. The city will not be involved. All we will do at that point in time, as of essentially the middle of February, is that we will provide the data that we've put together from this committee. And then we'll close up from that. Are there any questions really quickly before we jump right in? All right. What is a bond election? I think a lot of you know that, but this bond election process is going forward so that we can take the bonds, the propositions to the public in May of 2025. Just so you know, property tax bonds are only directed at the general fund expenses. We have a number of accounts that are called enterprise funds. So the bridge, water, sewer, those are enterprise funds. They generate their own funding. They may be a little bit supported by property tax, but most of them are enterprise funds. So we will not be talking about the enterprise funds for this, because we have other methods and other mechanics that can work in order to go after bond issues for enterprise funds. This is only the things that are within the general fund that are affected by the property tax. The municipal bonds allow the cities to fund major projects such as roads, parks, facilities, and other capital expenses. The bonds are issued and repaid over an extended period of time, similar to the way many buyers finance their homes. This strategy helps keep costs more equitable between current and future residents. And I would say that is something that I've learned over my 25 years with city managers as well too. Every once in a while you get somebody saying, well, save up your money and spend it when you get it. The problem is that our infrastructure doesn't believe us, right? It actually wears out a little bit faster than we can come up with it. So borrowing and leveraging our funds, leveraging our resources helps us move forward faster. And so that's the process that we have here. Before issuing the bonds, which can impact the tax rate, Texas cities are required to put any bond proposition to a vote. And of course, it's just a simple majority. Over 50%, we're all good to go. Under 50%, then the proposition has failed. All right, so everybody understands, there's 28 members on this committee. And how we broke it down was each council member appoints 3 representatives. So there's 24 members representing for each one of our council members from all 8 districts. The mayor gets 4 appointee representatives, and 1 will serve as the larger committee chair. That's been the process for most of our committees. So the mayor will have 1 person serving for that. The mayor has not submitted his names. He had his names on the last agenda and he held off on bringing them forward. So we are waiting for those representatives. What I'm asking from all of you is that I would like you to serve all the way through till at least June or July of next year, because I would like to have a conversation with all of you through the entire process so we can learn from the good, the bad, the ugly, and all those different pieces that go with that. So that's what we're hoping to do. All right, from the committee as a whole, we're going to get down into the subcommittees. And I don't think you have to get tied down too much with the names, but public safety is one, public infrastructure, enhancement services, and health and wellness. We broke those up into those 4. What you will do as a committee is that you will help us designate where each of these projects will go underneath which one. And there's a little bit of a strategy that goes into that, because there are certain things on here you will recognize as being very, very important to the city. And then there are some things that are, maybe it's not time for them yet. And that's what we want to hear from all of you for that. But each one of the subgroups will select their own chair. There will be 7 members on each one of them. Mr. Mata will run through if we have any of our 4 subcategories too full of people. We'll need to move them. We need to balance them out for that. And so we've got a process set up that will voluntarily move somebody first. If we can't get them voluntarily, then we're going to pull straws or do lots of something, flip a coin. I was trying to get somebody to do leg wrestling for this, but I guess we're not going to do that. We'll flip a coin or something. I don't know. All right, the timeline. Like I said, it's a very quick timeline right now. September 24, we actually made it to today, so thank you for that as well too. Thank the City Council for moving this thing forward. At this orientation meeting, I've already talked about that. The subgroup meetings will start in October and November. You will be setting your own schedule. I will make sure that our departments are involved all the way through that. Mr. Mata, of course, is serving as the liaison of the committee as a whole, and we will put in a liaison for each one of the subcommittees. And they'll help keep on task and track of all that information, because we're going to be shoveling it into your head, and you're going to have to make sense of it as best you can for that. But we'll meet in subgroups from October to November. In December through January, we'll start pulling everybody back in. There's no problem with having the subcommittees continue to meet, but the idea is that we're going to start coalescing into one voice and one process as to the committee as a whole. In February of 2025, we have to have the bond recommendation to the council. And really early on, we were talking February 14th, Valentine's Day. All right, it's a good, easy day to remember. But that'll be essentially the last day that politically we're able to put something on to the vote or the election in May. So that's why we have that down there. From February 2025, April 25, the additional public outreach, and as I said, the education campaign from that point forward will be a private committee. I expect it to be anyway. I won't help set it up either. I'm just telling you that I have a crystal ball sitting on my desk. I think I can read the future. And then May 2025, I'll be the bond election. All right, so today, this is just the meeting schedule. I've talked all about that. Subgroups can meet as often as they want. If the committee as a whole needs to meet at any point in time, it's all yours. All we do is we're going to follow the open meetings rules and everything, so we have to give 72 hours notice and all that. But so special meetings can happen with that as well too. I went into just sharing a little bit about staff liaisons. Some of you have served on committees in the past and everything, and I think at times there's a breakdown between what staff's responsibilities are, where they stop and start, and where you as a committee member have the responsibilities. And so I wanted to make sure that we understood all of that. So we will have committee liaisons to each one of our groups. And they will help you get through the bureaucratic red tape of the city whenever you need information in order to get that done. And so that's the idea, is that we'll put it forward. Most of our departments that I will show you where we're starting at with our programs and our projects, they have already been preparing their information. They've met with city administration a couple times in order to focus the information down. And I'll tell you why here in just a second. The responsibility of the department. So we get from the liaison, who's going to help the committee through, and then we get to the responsibilities of the departments as to how they're going to deliver the information to each one of you. They need to provide a comprehensive proposal, provide the detailed cost estimates and funding, impact assessments, and the projects that we are putting forward. The place we started was everything that is in the CIP is game. So the capital improvement plan, we do a capital improvement plan update every year at budget time. It's a 5-year plan, so if it's on that list, it should be good. We're also using the Viva Laredo plan, the comprehensive plan, because there's some information in there that may not have been translated yet into the CIP, but it has still been important because of if any of you have went through that comprehensive process, it was before I got here, but there was over 1,000 individuals from the city that participated in some format of the development of that comprehensive plan. So the departments will also ensure that any legal and regulatory requirements are addressed. They'll participate in the presentations and the Q&A sessions. They'll respond promptly to the committee requests. We have to flow this information quickly. So this is a priority for the city. So we're going to make sure that that information turns around very quickly for all of you. Those of you that do serve on other boards right now, you know at times it takes a little while to put information together. This is a priority because of our short time frame. We're going to make sure that that happens. And then they're going to collaborate with the staff liaisons to facilitate the information flow. Public involvement. The committees, the subcommittees will be hosting at least 2 public hearings or 2 town halls. The city council has asked for more. If we can get in 3 or 4 public hearings or public town halls to share that information, the nice thing is all of our meetings will be, it'll be online, it'll be open to the public and everything. So that's a good thing with that. But we're going to dedicate a little bit of time within that to meet the city council's request to set up a conversation saying this is what we're talking about. And so we'll do that. We'll get there. There will also be 1 public hearing because a referendum has to be passed by ordinance, which means that there is an introduction, a public hearing, and then a secondary vote. So there will be enough time, I would hope, that anybody in the public that has a question or a concern will be able to get their answers long before it gets to the ballot box. And then, of course, in the transparency, we will keep minutes, we'll keep reports. They'll be available to the public at all time. All right, just really quickly, these are some best practices for capital improvement bonding, and this is how we've been building this model, is that bonding can only be used for capital improvements. It cannot be used for operating costs. So understand that. It can do brick and mortar. It just cannot be used to hire staff to operate the brick and mortar. This is going to be one of the city's challenges with that, is because and you'll hear this, we're 3 fire stations short of where we're supposed to be already. And for one reason or another, they get kicked down the path, and we get by for the year, but we're still 3 fire stations short of where they need to be. We've got general locations set out. The problem is that you get the fire stations up, now we have to equip it, now we have to man it. And so that's the challenges we have. Our general fund budget, our regular budget is tight. And we're actually spending quicker than the new revenue coming in. And that's been the challenge. We're using some of our reserves, some of the money that has been set back over time. We know that we're going to have to go through for our regular budget. We're going to have to look at fees. We're going to have to look at rates. We're going to have to look at all these different pieces in order to make the operational side. And this is the difficulty of a growing community. It's what it is, and that's why we're hoping that you'll be able to help us with that. There are limited exceptions to the rule. Operating costs, you can hire people for a short time if it's tied to like the building of the capital and everything. But so there's very limited exceptions to that. What our bond council, what our financial advisor says, and what all the other communities are comparables that we've been looking at, the Dallases, the Austins, the San Antonios, the Corpus Christis, McKinney, all of these, they follow a 5 to 7 year window where they will go out with bond referendums to the people and say, are you willing to help us support this? And so we believe that that's what's going to happen, is that about every 5 years we will go back out and ask until we can get caught up, until we can get ahead of the ball game. But we think that's what's going to happen with this. Now the bond repayment goes out over 20 years, so that's the challenge we have with balancing everything out, right? Because 5 years to build out, or we believe that some of the things that we have here, I think with budget and finance, what they've been working on, we believe that we would try to build out in the first 10 years, get it all built, and then absorb the cost at the end of that time. But that's like to take the 3 fire stations, break them out every 2 to 3 years, one, and try to reduce that impact on our general fund budget. And the bond repayment is over the 20 years. I'm going to get into just a few numbers for you to kind of see exactly what the challenges that you're going to face are. Please bear with it. All these numbers are pretend, because as we saw with even our last bond issue is that we had what we thought the cost would be to our residents set, and by the time we sold the bonds, it had already shifted. And so bear with these numbers. These are all the ballpark numbers. It just gets you into the field area. What we're going to do as we trim it, as we move it into the real process, then it'll all tighten up. And then by the time we get to the question to go to the people, we'll have a very good picture of what's happening. All right. This is a slide I wanted to share with everybody because I think Laredo has done a fantastic job over the last 22 years, I believe. The tax rate has lowered almost every year because they've been cycling through their purchase of their bonds within the funding that they had. And so over the last 10 years, or from 2015 to 2025, City of Laredo has reduced their tax rate by 13 cents per 100 over that period of time. And we'll talk a lot about the pennies because that's that's how we're going to figure out what the impact to our taxpayers are. But in my mind, the fiscal due diligence that Laredo has had will be our blessing for how we look at this thing. Otherwise, the impact will be greater, I think, on where that's at. All right, important financial points. For every penny, this comes from our financial advisor, but for every penny generated, it generates 2.4 million, almost $2.5 million for the city. If you use that in the bond capacity, the 2.5 million per year for every penny will generate $41.6 million. And that's borrowing out over a 20-year window. So those are the numbers that we're kind of working with. Here we have the estimates per penny. I wanted to go ahead and put this out there because when we get up to 25 cents, if you walk across that, every penny, I've got it in groups of 5. You walk all the way across there, 25 cents per 100 will generate $61.8 million, which generates $1 billion of leveraged capital. So those are the numbers that we're working with for that. The other side of this thing, I think it is on this one. Yes, it is. Over on the left side of this screen are the valuations of property. 100,000, 200,000, all the way up to 500,000. I could take it farther, but just for the sake of the sheet, we kept it to just those 5 categories. Our current tax rate is 40 cents per 100. And it generates their annual tax rate for each one of those levels, 400, 800, 1200. If we generate 1 penny, these are annual numbers here. Everybody's tax rate will go up. If you're a $100,000 home, $10. And so you can divide that out over the 12-month period. If you wanted to come up with a monthly number, 365 days, 2,080 hours. All right, but it's But you can see how it walks through that. But you can also see that as we go up in the pennies, then of course so does the impact to our people, to you, to us, to everybody that's here. And so that is what we need to look at, and what's going to balance out our need for our services and our capital. This is the other side of that equation, as to what does that impact to our people. And so the idea is to walk all the way through that. This is kind of a modified sheet that started with the council and everything, and this is, some of these all ended up on there for one reason or another out of the council's thought processes and everything. And so this is how I've tried to break them down as to what's going to be looked at by each subcategory. Public safety, the current estimate is 250 million. Please remember, pretend numbers. Because if you ask both of our chiefs and our departments, they have bigger needs than that. What we're trying to do is keep them in that 5 to 7 year window, because we're trying to build a process that we can absorb and not negatively impact our people as well too. So, but police and fire are both up there. Public works, 376 million. This is streets and sidewalks, citywide. Downtown infrastructure in District 8, so the downtown area, we got the tiers working on that area, but there's a lot of needs for our infrastructure down there. And then Mines Road, along with downtown, have been taken on by the council as essentially citywide initiatives, not necessarily just the districts. So that's why they're up here on this and trying to find out exactly how to alleviate those issues within those areas. Within the engagement services, the estimate was 138 million. Rec centers in District 6 and 8. There is no rec center in District 6 right at the moment, and so that's why I think the council member would like to see a rec center in that district. District 8, is the older part of town, and having a renewed and a newer facility, they believe would be good. A convention center has been talked about ever since we closed the Civic Center, and we sold the Civic Center off. We have money sitting there to redo the Plaza Theater, but the Plaza Theater is not big enough for a conference or a convention type center. So we are looking at, out at District 5, building one out there by Unitrade and the arena, because we have hotels out there already. All the hotels, a lot of the outside, the private services are all there for that. And so that's been one of the models that we can do. The transit building for vehicle maintenance with El Metro, again, we are needing to do that. This last year, we were unable to get a grant from the state, so this gives us an opportunity to rebuild our model for this year. The needs remain until we can get it taken care of, and so we're working on that. The water park at the Buena Vista Sports Complex, that was a wish, and again, it started before I got here. I happened to be the one that had to be here when we had to cut it out because the cost of doing the sports complex itself, as you know, the COVID pricing and everything, and I'll probably digress a little bit on that one, but it went up, and so we had to cut the water park out in order to have enough funding in order to get the fields, the quads that we got done, and the other stuff out there. And so there is still a desire to look at the water park out there. We have the Rio Grande riparian improvements. The entire binational plan had an estimate about $498 million if you were to take it to its nth level. The idea, though, is that in this and the riparian improvements, that will help our water quality, that will help a lot of different things. That has reports all the way back to 2008 and earlier about removing the invasive species off of our riverbanks, which will help us in the long term with water quality, water conservation. So we put a little bit of money in there for that one, so you'll hear a little bit about that. Get into the health and wellness side of the $80 million. We have unfunded liabilities. This is more of an accounting thing, so the pensions of our people have to be covered to a certain level. We have to carry enough money if we were to ever have to clear out our pensions, and so there is not enough money there if we ever had to do that. It's very rare, just so you know, that it ever happens, but it helps us with our bond rating. It helps us with everything else when we show our fiscal responsibility within our funding. So we put that in there as a conversation. Pediatric hospital development, you're going to see that conversation go within the health department and everything because there's a lot of different needs, but I believe that Dr. Trevino, mayor of Laredo, when they went through COVID, there was a lot of challenges with the children that were getting sick and having to be helicoptered out of here in order to get health and everything. And so it's a mission of his to try to do something on the pediatric side. We do know that the hospitals are looking at some of that themselves, and so there may be a relationship that we can kind of shift around. The challenge we'll have with the pediatric hospital is that we cannot take our capital money either and put it into a private entity either. So whatever we use our money on, it has to be owned by the city. And that's going to be the challenge with that. And of course, the Hamilton Hotel improvements with assisted living. The Hamilton Hotel had been in the hands of its own little housing group, and they ended up collapsing. They were unable to keep everything together. At that time, the Hamilton Hotel reverts back to the city. That was the nature of the process. So we do have, we expect that there's about $8 million worth of improvements that have to be done to bring it up. And we're afraid that anything that we touch, because of the age of all the infrastructure, we'll be fixing it faster. And so we want to make sure that we have a plan for that. But these are the ones that we've kind of identified that have went through some conversation with the council, but you'll find a few more of them within the plans and everything, and I'm assuming some of you will come up with some of your own ideas, and so we'll walk through all of that. And that's my last slide for the orientation piece of that. I'm going to pass it off, and we'll keep moving on this. Are there any questions for me right now? I'll be here all the way through. I'm right there with you. I'll be behind you all the way. Yes, sir.
When you present the package to city council, can they modify it, add or deduct things?
Yes, they can. All the responsibility ends up in our elected officials' hands one way or another. What was really nice about what they're trying to do, and I would say that some of them are probably going kicking and screaming with us, but they really want to establish a good citizen group process. And the charter revision went fairly well, but if any of you watched the charter revision, there were things that were taken out of there because the council believed that they needed to be out of there. The nice thing is that I would expect that the decision that comes out of this committee is all going to be based on the facts and the numbers and the impact to our people, right? And I think that we're going to see them follow most of that because we're not putting any additional information together for them. So we're going to deliver a very good package that should be good for them to accept and go through that. I think the one challenge we will have is that we are starting this in this year. We have an election in November, and so there's a chance that we will see new council members that will start in January 1st, which means that we'll be wrapping it up with a possibility of a few new faces on that council, which may change the dynamics a little bit, but I'm not sure. But they will always have that ability to adjust accordingly. If we were to deliver a package, if we were really early estimates, if we did an $800 million package and did almost everything that was on that list, it's almost a 20 cent, 22 cent increase in taxes. So if we put something forward like that, then you might see them say, that's too much for our people to take right now. They'll bring it down to that. Again, conversely, I would say if it's too low, then they're going to say, well, I think we should go up on this as well too. What I'm hoping for, though, is that if we walk through the information well, they'll be more accepting of what we're going to present forward. And I think that's why I'm trying to make sure that everything we do is to that point, because I want to show them that they can, if they give us an opportunity, the citizens, the staff, we'll help walk them through this the right way. So, any other questions? Yes.
I'm the health and wellness, and I'm chairman of Alzheimer's Block, and I see Laredo as being number 1 in the state and number 9 in the country for having Alzheimer's cases. Is there anything that can be added to the health and wellness, or I mean, as far as support and in that arena? Because
yeah.
I think we're being impacted really, really big, and there's no support for the people that have Alzheimer's in town.
Yeah, and that's why when we started to build this, again, I think our strength is going to be in all of our history, bringing it up to that. Because I mean, we have Alzheimer's, we have a few other things that are just as important as well too. If we can work that within the model or the scope of what we've got prepared, I think it'll be a very strong case for it. And if nothing else, we need to make sure that it gets on our list, right? Because I think that'll be the good thing. Yeah.
Same thing. Nothing on downtown. Nothing on, you mentioned the comprehensive plan that I worked with, and there was so much attention paid to historic downtown and the potential, and it is in such desperate need of attention.
So.
Nothing here on that.
Yeah, the downtown improvements.
I know you mentioned Hamilton Hotel.
No, there was a. Yeah, up in public infrastructure, there was the downtown improvements. So it's tucked in there for streets, sidewalks, lighting, and all of that. And what I'll lay out to you as well too is, so we have the tiers board as well too, right? And we've taken the increment of whatever the tax revenue is coming from there, and we've given it to them to do all this work. The problem is that as best our estimates can say, is there's about $69 million worth of improvements that need to happen in the downtown. They're generating $2 million, $4 million. I mean, it's not enough money in order to get there. I think if we're able to justify funding it through a bond referendum, that will allow us to take the tiers funding in order to help the properties themselves improve their properties. Because fixing our infrastructure is not going to fix the downtown by itself. It's just going to make it a little nicer, right? If we don't see improvements on all of the private buildings downtown, that's where our assessed value will grow. And that's where we're going to see that. And the challenge I think the downtowns has, and you talk a little bit about the historic, is that fire suppression is necessary now. ADA accessibility is necessary now. So if you put too much money into your building, you have to now meet all those new codes. And I think that's part of the reason why we see some buildings sitting empty the way they are. It's cheaper to keep her rather than to do the improvements on it. And I think that's the model that we have to change, where we need to bring that up there, because if we can't increase the assessed value of the downtown and make it viable again, then fixing the infrastructure, it won't have the same impact that we need to have. And I believe that there's an opportunity there for the downtown, but the model we currently have is everybody's trying really, really hard, and we're not moving very fast for it. And I think that's why we wanted to have this conversation on the downtown improvements with everybody. Anything else? Any other questions? And you'll have time. Yes, sir.
I have a question. Let's say all this goes through, and we're doing this obviously because we don't have enough money, correct? That's why we're going after bond sale. If this goes through and we build, you mentioned fire departments, police departments, we need 3 or 4, which means
Yep.
400 firefighters and police officers. But if we don't have, and we can't use this money for operations, that we don't by law. So we don't have enough money to be able to pay for operations that we have right now. When we build more police stations and fire stations, what's going to happen when we have to hire all those new public services?
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, and I alluded to a little bit of that within there. We can't absorb it all overnight, right? We are capped at 3.5% increase in our general fund every year. And so our growth here is faster than that. One of the conversations we're having, because we're getting ready to go into the state legislative cycle next year, we're meeting with our legislators, we're going to ask, and the nice thing, it's not just Laredo, it's any other community in Texas that has the same impact because they're locked down by that 3.5%. But we're at, I believe we're in the double digits now for growth. We can't even get to all that new assessed value. And so our request for the legislature is, let us get to the growth of that. The tax rates won't really change for everybody that's here, but it'll allow us to absorb that new growth. And I think that's going to be the challenge with that. That'll be the job. By the time we get to February, we will have a plan together as to how to absorb that. So Laredo grows every year. And so its budgets are going up. Our cost, and some of it is COVID. A fire station, I think you used to be able to build it for about $150 a square foot. Anybody in the industry now?
About 512 square foot.
We're even higher now as well too. Maybe it's just a chief, right? but they're looking at almost $700 a square foot to build a fire station. And I think it'll balance out at some point in time, but I thought it would do it years ago. As soon as COVID kind of got balanced out as well too, but it hasn't. The costs remain a little bit high, and that's where the material goes. Yes, ma'am.
So part of, just hanging into what Mr. Mena just mentioned, are we also going to get a package as far as the amount for say in public safety for $250 million, but apart, are we going to get something also separate on the operational side to see how much impact those $250 million is going to give us in actual bodies?
We'll get there. The main thing right now was to get the capital into your hands, and then what will happen is our staff will start putting all that together. Before we hit February, you will understand exactly how we have to eat that elephant, right? And so, and that may change your mentality as to how to absorb it as well too.
Yeah, because the cost behind, the
Yeah.
operational cost is what's going to be key role to make sure that we utilize the $250 million.
Right.
Or if we need to cut back, or if we need to
Right.
cut back on each service.
Right. I mean, well, and you're involved with El Metro, and so you see it exactly with that service as well too, right? Is that if we can get more people to ride the bus, it would make it a lot easier in order to absorb those costs as well too. And so, but yeah, that's what we're going to be challenged with. Yes, sir.
Are we also going to get presentations from the departments as far as the bond department, from the fire department, as far as the needs assessment and also on the personnel side and, and so on and so forth. And
Yeah,
probably a year plan, as anywhere from 5 to 7 year plan as how. they
So
plan to-
there, yeah, so the idea is that each one of the departments have been working on it right now. They're going to deliver the entire capital plan. And they have been working on the operational side, but until we know what the capital side's going to look like, we don't know exactly what those costs are going to look like as well too. And, some of the stuff had already been in the cycle as well too. We are getting ready, I think, to build one of those fire stations now. We actually have the cadets already on board. We actually had a group of fire cadets earlier that were supposed to take on a station. The station didn't happen, and we lost so many firefighters in retirements. We absorbed them through the retirements of our staff. And so then we had to rebuild the entire model as well too. And so, but yes, all of that will be coming forward to the subcommittees and to the committee, because you have to have the full picture in order to know where to go. The main thing, what we're doing right now is trying to get the capital into your hands so that you understand the model. And each one of our departments is going to come in and say, here's why, and here's what it is. And then we're going to put a number to it. And again, the nice thing is their numbers are only as good as my numbers as well too. They're all pretend right now, because the closer we get to when we absorb it, we don't know what the future costs are going to be. We're going to add in a little bit of extra for if we build a fire station 6 years from now. We're going to figure out, we're going to we're going to go up on that. So we will get all that to you. Yes, sir.
How are you gonna break up the committees?
We're going to let everybody choose at first. And so if we have over 7 people in any of the committees, then we're going to have to figure out how to divvy up a little bit differently. And so that'll be the nature of when we get into the next round. I think Mr. Maldonado is going to cover the oath of office next, and then we're going to get into the subgroups, and then if everybody divides up well, then we move faster. If everybody wants to be on public safety or public infrastructure, then we'll have to do a little bit of finagling and moving people around. So. Okay? Anything else really quickly? I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Maldonado.
Good afternoon. If the bond referendum committee members can stand and raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the duties of office of Bond Referendum Committee of the City of Laredo, Texas, and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and the laws of the United States and of this state. And I further solemnly swear that I have not directly nor indirectly paid, offered, or promised to pay, contributed, nor promised to contribute any money or thing of value, or promised any public office or employment as a reward to secure my appointment or the confirmation thereof. So help me God. Congratulations. After the meeting, we do have some certificates of oath that you need to sign. If you can just bear with us and stay after the meeting so we can have you sign those certificates. We are required to maintain a copy of the certificates in our office. So once they're signed, we will make copies, and then we will provide the original copies to the department liaison to return those documents to you. Thank you very much. Mr. Mata? Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Frank Mata. I'm your finance director for the city of Laredo, and I will be your main liaison for the entire committee. Right now, at this point, we don't have the liaisons identified for these subgroups, but we will get you that information. We'll get you all the contact information that you folks need to operate effectively. Okay. So at this point, at this moment, what I want to do is I want to introduce our financial consultant and our bond counsel or co-bond counsel, and have them talk a little bit about what they do and where they could come into the picture. So, Mr. Tony Hasso.
Thank you. Good evening. My name's Tony Hasso. I represent the firm Estrada Hinojosa and Company, and we've had the privilege of serving the city for quite some time as financial advisor. But as Mr. Mata was saying, our role is to help with the financing, and so this comes, a little ways down the road. We're just getting started forming committees. You all are going to do some really important work, some hard work in helping to formulate which projects get recommended to the members of the council. And then, once that's done, we'll work in concert with Mr. Mata, Mr. Esparza, and some of the city staff to help guide council and help them understand what that structure would look like. Again, Mr. Neb did a fantastic job of talking about the financing and made an analogy to a long-term loan, similar to our mortgages on our home. And so we're going to be doing some of that analysis on behalf of the city, trying to help understand within certain constraints what that financing, what that payback looks like.
That it?
That's about it. Thank you.
Short, sweet, and down to the point. Mr. Juarez.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Jay Juarez. I'm a proud product of Laredo, Alexander, class of 2002. I did my first year of college studies at Laredo College. My wife has deep roots here as well as me, so my in-laws own Tonios, if any of y'all are familiar with that place. So my law firm is McCall Parkerston Horton. I work as co-bond counsel along JCA Law to provide bond counsel services to the city. My firm is the only one in the state with a national reputation of providing bond counsel services. We represent the city of Austin, city of Dallas, Del Rio, Harlingen, McAllen. I myself represent about 35 cities and about 30 school districts. So what does bond counsel do? Elections is probably about a fourth of the transcript that we need to submit to the Attorney General. Any public securities need to get submitted to the Attorney General's Public Finance Division for approval. So we take charge of acting as your liaison with the Attorney General's office to make sure that you're doing everything in compliance with state law, alongside with your city attorney and Mr. Cruz, to make sure that when you all issue your bonds, you're not going to have any issues. So we have not yet digested all of the projects that you all have in front of you. We will be working alongside with you guys to make sure that all those projects are something that are permissible to issue bonds for. And yeah, as far as the election goes, that's pretty much the depth of our experience. I'm circulating right now a timetable that our elections department put together. I don't know if we're going to be able to get Rose Kanuski, she's from our elections department, to participate. She's on the line. I don't know if she's going to be able to have access to talk right now. But so our firm is divided up into 3 separate practice areas. I do state law and public securities. Rose is our election specialist. And then we have a federal tax department. I won't bore you with all that, but in a nutshell, when y'all actually issue your bonds, our tax department renders an analysis so that the investors in your all's bonds, when they receive the city's interest, they don't have to turn around and pay federal income tax. And so that results in a lower interest rate that the city has to pay on their debt. I think Mr. Neb covered the basics of what I wanted to cover. One thing is if the voters do approve your bonds, y'all aren't going to have to issue everything up front. Y'all could issue them in tranches so you don't start paying that debt off all right away. It just depends on how y'all decide to layer your debt. With that said, I'm going to turn it over to Juan Cruz and Rick for anything they'd like to add.
All right, so I feel at home. I know everybody here pretty much. I've worked with you in some capacity. Anyway, Rick, if you could just hand out We have 50 copies of this handout, so it's a 2-pager, and I'm going to quickly go through it because you may wonder what can we do legally so that we don't get into trouble, right? Elections. And right now, the AG's office is going after, right, Sylvia? Electioneering all over the state. So we want to make sure that cities, counties, and school districts, all of which we work with, are in compliance of the law, or with the law, I should say. So, I'll kind of start with, first of all, may a city council take a position in an election? That, my friends, is a big fat no. You cannot have the city council pass a resolution and say, we want for everybody to vote for it. That would be illegal, all right? You cannot use your resources to electioneer to say, we want this to happen after you call for the election. What is political advertising within this context? Basically, if you want to convince voters to vote for it and you're using city resources, then you are electioneering, which is a violation of law. The third one, may the city hold a press conference to provide factual information about a bond measure on the ballot? Yes, and Monica knows this, as being on the Laredo ISD board, you can state factual information, what the projects will do for the city, but you can't say, and because of that project, we want you to vote for it. May the city use public funds to communicate anything about election? Yes. Some cities actually hire marketing agencies so that they can, provide factual information to the voters. Then the back of the page, may the city create a special logo for its bond election? You can create a logo, but logos can be very creative, and I've seen where people have been wanting to push, maybe like if you're a school district, a little wagon and pushing it forward with a bunch of bricks. That could imply that you want somebody to vote for it. So you got to be very careful with how creative you are, because the people that are the cavers, which I say the citizens against virtually everything, those are the ones that are going to be out there and saying, you know what, that to me implies that they're trying to push it. And because they're trying to push it, that is something that is illegal. Next question, may the city link from its website to other websites supporting the bond referendum? That is a no. You can't use, hey, there's a PAC committee here. They're going to be out there convincing voters to vote for it. So let's just provide that link on our city website. You can't do that. Next one, may city council members use personal time and money to campaign for bond measures? Yes, just because they're in city council does not mean they lose their First Amendment rights, so long as they do it on their own time and with their own resources. May city employees advocate for or against a ballot measure? Yes, they can on their own time, not using the city electronic communications. Next one, may the city employees advocate for or against candidates or ballot measures on their own time? Yes, and last but not least, what about the city manager? The city manager, no, he is basically the representative of the city 24/7, Monday through Saturday, so that he's the only one that really has to stay within factual information to the voters, all right? So like Jay said, we close with this. We're gonna kind of be here to support you as much as we can, and whatever way we can, make sure that you keep it legal. If you have any questions, I think everybody pretty much has my cell phone here, so you can reach me. All right. Thanks.
If not, we're going to make that information available once we get going. At this point, this is the part where we're going to have fun and placing you guys on the different categories. Can you pull up that slide for me? All right. Okay. So as Mr. Neb had mentioned, we do have 4 categories. We have public safety, public works, engagement services, health and wellness. Now, each one of you folks is well qualified to be in any of these categories. You were selected carefully by our council members. But what we're going to do is we're going to allow you the opportunity to pick where you would like to be, all right? As Mr. Nubb said, if we're too heavy on one category, then we will allow you voluntarily the second opportunity to place yourself in a category where they need help. If that all fails, then we're going to cast lots. Or are we going to do the leg thing, Mr. Neb? So, okay. All right. So start stretching.
Everybody else, everybody should stretch.
All right. So at this point, Mr. Maldonado, do you want to call out the names? And as you hear your name, go ahead and call out where you would like to be placed in. Okay? All right. Does anyone have any questions how this is going to go down? Good.
Okay.
And Mr. Maldonado, please call the ones that are not here, well, two that are already on the list, because I know that we have at least one that is, could not be here tonight, and, but there is a proxy within the office.
Okay, I'll start with District 1. Guadalupe Ramirez, not present. Okay. Javier de Anda.
Here?
Choose. Health and wellness.
Adrián Zapata.
Here, engagement services.
Mónica Garcia.
Public safety.
Roque Vela Jr.
Public Works.
Mr. Jesus Olivares.
Public safety.
Public Safety. Mr. Arturo Dominguez.
Public Works.
Ms. Tricia Cortez.
Number 3, engagement services.
Mayra Hernandez. Absent. Mr. Juan Narvaez.
Public Works.
Ms. Sylvia Bruni.
You want all three? Health and wellness.
Okay. Mr. Aldo Chapa. Absent. Alfonso Poncho Averill.
I've got a proxy, you want to be on health and wellness.
Okay. Belinda Guerra. Absent. Pete Sines III.
Engagement services.
Mr. Jerry Schroel.
Public Works.
I'm sorry to interrupt. My Hernandez, she is virtual.
Okay.
And what did she say? Public Works.
Okay.
For Myra Hernandez.
We noted that. Okay, Mr. Tony Arce Jr.,
Engagement services.
Mr. Eduardo Garza,
Public safety.
Edward, sorry. Ms. Lucy Morris,
Public Works.
Mr. Fernando Baldasso,
Engagement services.
Mr. Bill Young,
Public Works.
Justin Heather, absent. Mr. George Gonzalez, and Ms. Viviana Frank.
How does it look?
For Public Works, you have 8.
Okay. Is that the only one that's heavy?
Yes.
Okay, what are the available?
Let me see. 3, 4. For engagement and engagement services, that one. I want to say that one's supposed to be enhancement services, right?
Enhancement services.
Yes.
Enhancement services, yes.
Okay, 1, 2.
Mr. Maldonado, just received Justin Heather would like to be on engagement services.
Okay, yes, sir.
Justin Heather, engagement services. Enhancement services.
one's 6 also.
All right,
There's
so
space.
there's
Some
space,
space
one
there.
space. So we are one heavy on Public Works. So any volunteers, they're all open. Anyone that is in Public Works that wants to switch, now's the time.
I'll switch to public safety.
Your name, ma'am?
Lucy Morris.
Lucy Morris,
Which one, I'm sorry?
Public safety.
to Public Safety. We're good?
Just-
Do you want to
yes.
sign the, there's 6 appointees, yes.
We gotta allow them, yeah, yeah.
So Mr. Mata lost a lot of sleep over this.
I did.
So, you know, thank you so much. What we'll do is we'll take all the remainders as they get sworn in and everything, we'll place them accordingly and fill up the rest of the seats.
Well, congratulations. We look forward to meeting with every one of you. Again, over the next coming week, we will provide you that list of contact information for everyone. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to legal. Mr. Joaquin.
I have to follow Frank Mata? Man, that's tough. That's a tough one. All right, well, I'm here to talk to you about a couple things. I know that the bond council had talked about bond stuff, shocker, right? We're here to talk about TOMA, and I know it's close to happy hour, but TOMA, it's not TOMA, okay? It's the Texas Open Meetings Act, okay? So under the Texas Open Meetings Act, I mean, most of you who have been in the city understand its purpose, right? Its purpose is to make sure that we have an open and transparent government. Why is that important? Because we don't want to do anything in secret, right? It's government. We want to make sure that it's open and transparent and that everyone has a voice to voice their concerns, which is why you are on this committee. You are speaking for the people on this very important issue, all right? So what are some of the rules? In a general sense, these meetings have to be noticed so that people can make plans to attend. There has to be minutes that are taken, and the recording, it's all recorded right here. So we're okay with that. There also has to be a section for public criticism, or as we call public comments, okay? Because that is one of the things that is guaranteed to us by our Constitution. It's the ability to always criticize your government, all right? So that's what we're gonna do here. As far as TOMA is concerned, there are things called walking quorum, which means you cannot speak to each other outside of a meeting to talk about official business. Not only is it possibly unethical, it's also illegal, okay? There are criminal penalties for this, all right? Especially when you are making such a very important decision or you are advising our council in making this very important decision, okay? So that's basically TOMA in a nutshell, okay? And if there's any questions, please rely on your friendly neighborhood city attorneys for that. And I already have a question. Yes, Ms. Monica.
Is it going to be allowed to have executive session items, being that we're gonna deal with public safety, and in order to have the correct data, we are going to need to kind of put into the presentation piece factual-based information in order to make the correct decisions going forward as to what needs to be given to each department and so on?
That is an excellent question. Now, every notice is going to have an agenda, and if there are things on the agenda that qualify for closed session, that's what executive session is, it's closed session, that is codified in our government code. If there is an exception to the open meetings requirement, it has to fall within one of those exceptions. And Ms. Monica, if it does fall within one of those exceptions, then we will go back there and discuss these things in executive session, okay? Excellent question. Any other questions?
Can you, for the purposes of this committee, can you repeat what those exceptions are that would allow a closed session?
Oh my goodness, I am a lawyer, but I don't know all the laws off the top of my head. I'd have to go and consult. Yes. So there are a couple. Those that I can come up at the top of my head, but again, you can rely on us to look up the answer for you and we will give you the answer. So one of the things is any contemplated or possible litigation. I don't think that's gonna come up very often. Security devices or the implementation of security devices, that's one that could be used for purposes or in this context. Purchase of property, thank you, Mr. Valdez. Purchases of property, right, are also in closed session, and there is a myriad of exceptions that exist within the government code, all right? But as long as it fits one of those exceptions, then we can go into closed session. Any other questions on this, y'all?
Is it confidential data also over to that purview?
It truly depends, because remember, at the heart of this, we have to remain open. We have to be transparent. Everything has to be said here. It all depends on whether or not the
Classified information.
classify it again. It all depends, because remember, even information when it's in the hands of the government is subject to open records. So again, it all depends on the context. It all depends. So, but again, there is a list of exceptions in the government code. If something that you wish to discuss in your committees falls within one of those exceptions, we can talk about these things in closed session or executive session. Any other questions, y'all? All right. Now let's go to Robert's Rules, okay? Now, I've seen people that, most of you have served on committees. You have a previous council member, right? Robert's Rules, it's parliamentary procedure, right? We're trying to figure out how we can make this meeting as organized as possible so that you all can make all the decisions and vote on things that you wish to vote on, okay? Your chair is going to be a vital part of that. So whoever you nominate to be the chair of your committee is going to be the one to enforce these rules. If there's a clarification required for any of these rules, we can turn to our city secretary. And I know Mr. Valdez can chime in because he was our city secretary for a long time, and your legal department can chime in as well to clarify these rules. All right? You're going to hear words like motion, call for the question, other stuff. And we're going to be able to make sure that the meetings are conducted accordingly to these rules, okay? We also have to talk about the priorities and procedures manual. There are procedures that regulate all of your meetings, okay? You're going to have quorum requirements. How many people are required to have a quorum? A quorum is important so that we can make sure that the committee is able to take a vote. Without a quorum, you cannot vote, okay? And all of these things are there's a lot of books. I learned that as I became part of the city. There's a lot of books, and we know what's in them, and we try to give you the best information possible, okay? Any questions on Robert's Rules? I promise you it's a lot more complicated than this, but I want to get you home to your families early. Any questions? Thank you very much for your time, and I just want to say thank you very much for volunteering for this duty. It's really nice to see citizens involved in their government to make sure that it runs appropriately, and your input is vital. I mean, it's one of the things that this country is based on. It's an open government and people being able to participate in their government, which makes this the best form of government, which is a democracy, a representative democracy, but a democracy nonetheless, right, where the people get to decide. So thank you very much.
I don't know if I can. I'll try. I don't know if I can top that. Click. There we go. Okay, mine's just a few slides. So my name is Noraida Negron. I'm the Public Information Manager for the City of Laredo. I know most of you in this room, but for those of you who don't know, so I will be talking a little bit more about what we are going to be doing when it comes to the campaign or the videos and the information that we're going to be distributing to our community as you guys are doing these committee meetings, as well as through the process and all the way until election. So because of that, we had to do this strategic campaign to kind of be essential to the community, engaging the community, for you all to also know what the community is also saying during these engagements as well, and for them to understand. It is a lot of projects that we have to go through, so we want to make sure that everyone's educated. So our objective is, of course, educate the public, engage the community in different things, whether they are the town hall meetings like Mr. Neb had mentioned earlier, which we will be helping you put together as well, and also Q&A sessions, social media surveys as well, and even surveys in the town hall meetings, so that we all have all that information that, whether they're there, they're already asking questions, and we're going to be engaging with them as well. So the campaign elements that we're looking at is, of course, again, the town hall meetings like we mentioned, but also we are going to be doing some short videos between a minute or two, kind of explaining some of these projects to the community so that they understand what exactly it is that you as a committee member are looking into and into voting, and also what maybe they are able to be voting on, right? The next thing that we're going to be doing is also some printed materials that will be distributed at the town hall meetings or at any public place that we have, whether it's here at City Hall or even online as well on our website, our city page, the libraries, recreation centers, you name it. So we're going to be able to have this informational printed materials to break down all the categories that we mentioned that you guys are going to be breaking down in, all the visuals, descriptions with all the benefits of each and every project that we're going to be discussing. Also, social media, of course, we're going to be focusing on posts on when you guys are going to be meeting, as well as what topics, because once you guys go into these subcommittees, you will be hearing from the different departments, right, and the different projects in itself. So we want to make sure that the community knows exactly which projects are coming up forth so that they're able to either watch the meeting or they can come here as well. And we wanted to do more also interactions with them. So doing some interactive polls, interactive live sessions via our social media pages as well. And of course, our city website, we are going to create within our city website a section specifically for this bond election. Every information, all of the presentations that the committee members will be able to see will be also on our website so that people are able to access them and will be able to dissect it as they go. So all of the information will be there too. Our timeline for this is between February and March, which we will be doing the informational town hall meetings, and also we'll begin those video productions with all the different departments. By April, we can be distributing already all these printed materials depending on when we're actually going to be doing those town hall meetings, and of course ramp up all of our social media engagement. In May, all we can do is, as was mentioned before, all we can do is push a reminder to the citizens that on their ballot, they're gonna see something more than what it is in that election, right? Which will be referendums. We cannot then go into the details of what is on the ballot by then, because we cannot necessarily push for any project or any specific, but we just can remind the public as to when they can vote and that it is gonna be on their ballot. These are some of the examples that other cities that have gone through the bonds have been doing, either on social media and also even on their website. The city of San Antonio have broken down every time a committee meeting is meeting, but they're also putting in there exactly what project you guys will be discussing. So that's something we want to do. That way it's very open and it's very transparent and forward. And also their website in the city of Corpus Christi and also the city of Austin, they were, after the voting happened, they actually voted on a bond for affordable housing. And so other communities and foundations and groups were actually able to, just thank the city, right, and the committee members for their work on pretty much everything that was voted on. So we will be guiding you through this process. It is a lot of information, but we will be also giving you information during the town hall meetings and after, and we'll probably do it also during the meetings as well, so that you're able to get what the feedback is from the public. Do you guys have any questions for me? No? Great.
All right, again, thank you for your time. What we'll do from here is that we will put together the subgroups. We will send out an email tomorrow and let everybody, we will start polling you for your first meeting. We'll use the majority rule that if we get enough of you that can come, a quorum, then we will bring everybody in. At that point in time, once we start the meeting, you'll elect a chair for each one of the subcommittees, and then we'll get right to work. Understand that we do have to have 72 hours notice before we post the meeting, so that'll be the process that we walk through. So hopefully if we can get one in this week, all good. If not, it'll be next week that we'll set that up. And then we will start taking the departments through each one of you as we're prepared out. And we'll take you through as many as you can handle. We kind of broke them up just a little bit so that you don't have to listen to all of them at the same time, because it will be a lot of information. And so we want to make sure that you get a time to digest it, get a time to consider the cause, effects, and all of that. So we'll make sure there are. Are there any other questions or anything that you have right now? Yes, sir.
Yes, could you include your opening presentations and that?
Yes, sir. We will do that. I will make sure that gets out as well too. Yes, ma'am.
When did Laredo last go out for a bomb revolution?
The last time they went out, does anybody have the right answer for that one? 96 was the last bond referendum. The last time we went to the voters was for the sports venue tax. And so that was the last time that we were in front of them saying, can we do this? Yeah, the actual bond referendum was, yeah. Yeah. So it's been a while.
We did some fire stations and library, fire training
Okay.
facility.
Been out of the convention center twice. Went out to the voters.
Okay.
But the one that did pass was a fire one.
Yeah.
Everything else been certificates of obligation.
See, and our hope is that we're going to put out the justification as to why this is important. If the people decide that it's not time, we're all good with that as well too. We'll look at other options as well too. But I think in order to take care of our home, I think we need to do everything possible to do it. So, yes, sir. It'll work to whatever the group wants. I would ask that the first one at least be after hours. And then as you get together as your group, the nice thing is that we will try to record everything so that the public can catch up if they're not allowed to participate at the time. And we'll just kind of keep moving through that. So it really depends on what you need to do. We're going to be there regardless. So staff will be there in order to do their job. I do have to pick out the liaison for each one of the subgroups as well too. But I would recommend that the first one being after hours, just for the sake of continuity. Yes, sir.
Most of the meeting will be held where?
Most of the meetings we hope to hold here.
No, there's 2 minutes, one at the same time, or 2 groups of people.
If they are, we'll get an alternative site. We can meet here. Where else do we have a whole setup? The library.
There's other places that we have the same setup in order to be able to record it, yeah. So there are options, yes.
Yeah. So, yeah. We're at your service. So whatever you need, we're going to make it work. We have enough places. I think we'll find out how to get it done. And I think you see within the timeline, it'll be a fast schedule. So the more that you're able to meet, the faster we can set up the system and everything, the better we'll all be. Is there any? Yes, sir. Out of 7, it'd be 4. Yep. Yes, sir.
Can you remind us of our tax rate right now?
The what?
Our tax rate?
Tax rate, 40 cents. 40 cents. 40 cents per 100, right? 51 total. 51 total. 40 is for capital. M&O. So, did you get that?
So it's 54 right now? 51 cents total? 51. 40 for M&O and 11 cents for debt service. 11 for debt service.
Got it? And if you want it, we can send it out as well too. Okay. All right.
It was in your presentation.
Yeah.
You had it broken.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else?
We just need this signatures of the members on the
Okay.
certificate of oath. I can just pass it on.
Once you have your signatures and everything, yes, sir.
I would recommend that all the committees have meetings, rec centers, libraries, all throughout the
Thank
city.
you.
so that the public and the neighborhoods can have access to the areas that they're interested in. And I would stay away from City Hall, and stay in the.
I appreciate that. I think that would be a great idea for that as well too. We'll try to make sure that we can get that done because taking them closer to what we're talking about is always going to be good too, I think. So we'll do what we can and try to get that set up. Anything else? Thank you so much. Have a great week.